Start by using a circle to represent the main portion of the skull or the cranial mass, and then we'll split the circle with lines, both vertically and horizontally. Then we'll begin plotting our landmarks. That first horizontal line is where the brow ridge lives, and the second line that follows will mark the bottom of the nose. Halfway between the nose and the chin is where the mouth lives, along with the jawline. And at the very bottom we have the chin and the hairline right there above the brow. Now obviously we're not going to be tracing the subject, but it's helpful to see these proportions mapped out on an actual face before attempting to use this technique. Finally, we'll complete this by outlining the shape of the head, and what we end up with will be our foundation for drawing in the nose, the eyes, the ears, and everything else. Now it's time to add in the features. Drawing in the features is a subject that could easily take 5 or 6 videos to cover, so we're not going in depth right now. I'm just going to give you a super fast way that you can break down the nose, eyes, and mouth into simpler shapes. We'll start with the nose because the nose is a great reference point to position everything else around. It breaks into a really simple shape that I call the necktie because, well, now if you rotate it in perspective, it becomes a more complex 3D shape, but like I said, we'll cover that more in depth in a future video. Next up are the eyes and eye sockets, and there's not really much to say here because both of these shapes are just hexagons, with the eyes being a little bit more elongated in the top and in the bottom. Now, pro tip, if you draw 2 lines from the corners of the nose to the center of the eye sockets, it'll give you the corners of the eyes. Definitely want to put that in your pocket for later. And then lastly, we have the mouth, which is again just an elongated hexagon with a line through the middle. Also, you can draw 2 lines from the corners of the nose to find the corners of the mouth as well. Okay, time to test this out. See if you can follow along with the demo in the next section. Okay, so starting with the front-facing view, we'll start with our circle and split it down the middle both vertically and horizontally. That will be our brow line. We'll drop 2 lines on the side to mark the sides of the head. Then we'll start adding in our landmarks. We'll start with the nose, chin at the very bottom, and the hairline. Next, I'll put in the line for the mouth, and then you can see me drawing the nose, or the shape of the nose right after that. And then remember, the nose works as a great reference point to find the other features. So I'm going to draw these 2 lines from the corners of the nose, and in just a moment, those are going to help me find the corners of the eyes. Just drawing a quick mouth shape here, and then so I'll mark that horizontal line right through the bridge of the nose, and where those lines intersect is where the corners of the eyes should go. For the eye sockets, we'll just draw in these 2 kind of hexagonal shapes, and then I'll draw in the eyes. Pop in some nostrils here, and we're pretty much done with the majority of the facial features. Next up, we're going to outline the head. So we'll start with the chin down here and draw in some angled lines for the jaw. And go ahead and complete the rest of the circular. As for the ears, remember that the ears always should go right between the bottom of the nose and the eyebrow line. And then I'll finish up by just adding in some details to make this look more like our reference on the left. Remember, take your time with this. The entire point of this process is for you to learn and get comfortable with laying in a basic blueprint that you can work with. Don't rush it and don't be too hard on yourself. So next up we have the side view. This can be a deceptively challenging view to master. There's a few key differences in the proportions. For instance, one, there is the size of the cranial mass here. So the circle in this perspective is going to be a great deal wider. It's going to be a lot wider than the circle we draw from the front. And this is just because the skull is elongated. So we'll see the full length of the skull, or the full depth of the skull, I guess, in this perspective. Next thing we're going to look at is the location of the ear, because it kind of helps anchor the entire side profile view. If you notice, it's not going to be right on that center line. That would be incorrect. It's actually going to land just behind it and at a slight tilt to help frame that entire profile. And so once our ear is properly placed, we can go ahead and connect the front of the face and the jaw. So from the middle of the circle, go ahead and drop a line down and create this shape that connects up to the ear. It's kind of like an angular V. And after that, we'll draw the nose and lips and chin on top of that. And now notice how these features poke out from the front of the face. They're not like right on top of it. If you were to draw it like this, the face would look too smashed in, right? So look out for those kinds of nuances and details. The other thing we're going to look at here is the distance between the eye and the nose bridge. So notice how deeply inset the eye is inside of the head. There's this nice gap right here between the bridge of the nose and where the eye actually sits. So do make sure to try and capture that when you're drawing. And last but not least, we're just going to take a look at the overall contour of this entire profile and really observe all of these angles and hooks and curves. There's a lot going on here. All right, so now we're going to introduce a little bit of perspective into the mix. If you're not familiar with how objects rotate in perspective, I have a tutorial on that, and you can watch that here. I'll also link it in the description. But from here, we'll start with our sphere, and we'll drop the center line to establish the direction that the subject is facing. In this case, he's facing off to the left or his right, so we'll draw in the guidelines as such. You can see me chopping off the sides of the head there. There's no need for these sidelines anymore. And then I'm just going to go ahead and start drawing in the major landmarks. So the nose, the hairline, the chin down at the bottom. I'm going to go ahead and throw in the ear because I feel like that's a nice anchor point as well. Moving on to the nose, this is what the nose shape looks like in perspective. So you can see it's rotated, a bit more depth there. Then I'll put in our eye line right there in between, right at the bridge of the nose. A little way down from the nose, we're going to drop in the mouth line, and then I'll go ahead and start outlining the face. And so just like in the side profile, you can see in this view, there are a lot of important nuances and little quirks that are unique to this perspective and are all very important. So never overestimate how much you can learn from studying your reference. Just pay attention and draw what you see. Not what you think you see, but draw what you see. So the subject is tilted down now, or we're looking at it from the top. So I'm going to draw in all of the same guidelines. By now you should know what they are. And so here again, we are applying our knowledge of perspective. Now that we can see them from the top, you can see that these guidelines are actually just ellipses or ovals that are circles that are rotated in perspective. So we'll incorporate the tilt with our guidelines on the hairline, the brow line, the nose line. Well, this will give us a nice top-down view. Now, all things considered, this is a fairly relaxed top-down view. We could push this even more to get a more extreme angle, and that would give us even less space between each of the features here. So what I mean is, the more we rotate this perspective downward, the less space we see between each of the features, from the eyes to the nose to the mouth, and the mouth to the chin. That space in there will definitely start to crunch in on each other. So just like with the top-down view, drawing from this angle will force you to shift all of your landmarks upward. And once again, because of the perspective, everything is going to crunch in a little bit closer together. Here you can see I'm starting with the nose again, just because from this angle you'll be able to see the bottom of the nose, as well as the upper lip will be a little bit more prominent and the brow ridge. This angle can add a lot of drama and power to a scene. It can be great for hero shots, dramatic impact, you name it, but it can fall apart really fast if you don't follow a structure. So just make sure to stick to your guidelines, trust yourself, and trust the process. If you made it this far, thank you so much for watching. And if you found this helpful, please don't forget to like and subscribe. I post new videos every week, and I'll be talking more about manga, comics, character design, and a whole lot more.